back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth.
Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, and what can I say? The world is unraveling, or better, their world is unraveling. I mean, we talk about this all the time on the channel, but we are no longer living in what scholars call a unipolar world. Put it plainly, what that really means is that this one-size-fits-all globalist structure is basically collapsing. And instead, we're entering into a far more multipolar world, a world in which each culture, community, and civilization is beginning to reawaken their traditions and societal infrastructures. And as a result, we're no longer reliant on the global and all-powerful corporate forces, the elites. And again, like we've discussed on this channel a number of times before, the new politics that's emerging from this shift from the unipolar world to a more multipolar world, is one that's realigning the old horizontal political divides of left versus right to a more vertical divide of the people versus the political class, right? The people versus the elites. And what Trump and the MAGA movement have brought to the surface is an underbelly of leaders who are realizing that their time is effectively up. And now there's a mass panic, very palpable panic among our elites, particularly as they're witnessing a huge uprising against the very DEI that they've been forcing down our throats now for years. Perhaps really the most noteworthy, significant development in all of this is in this backlash is the recent conversion of Mark Zuckerberg. You've all heard about his call to end censorship on Facebook and Instagram, but it's causing many to skeptically ask, is this elitist billionaire a poster child of the new MAGA movement's freedom of speech? Or is Zuckerberg an opportunist? Is he a pragmatist? And if he is a pragmatist, would he censor again in the future? Would all of these large companies and corporations do the same given the opportunity? And what can patriots do to protect ourselves against any, shall we call it, potential woke backsliding among our cultural elite? Well, joining me today to help us think this through is Scott Coburn. Scott is the Chief Marketing Officer of Patriot Mobile. And I'll say this, if you want to protect yourselves against the woke world, you need to think first and foremost about what companies you're relying on to communicate. Now, to learn more about that, click on the link in the description below, or you can even scan that QR code on the screen. Do it today, and Patriot Mobile will give you a free month when you sign up. Absolutely awesome stuff. Scott, great to have you with us. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Always a pleasure, Dr. Steve. And, I love what you guys are doing. And I tell you, I have not stopped smiling since the first week of November. It's been quite a month or so. And look, we have a lot of work to do. We know that.
Right.
And,
Right.
You bring up a very fair topic here, right? I mean, look, it's amazing how much can change in just a few months based on an administration change, right? I mean, we're seeing that right now with some of these guys like Zuckerberg and others coming forward. And it's hard to tell whether or not it's sincere or not, or whether this is some kind of a hedge against some reckoning that might be coming with the new administration. We don't know. But all we do know is that it's pretty clear what happens when companies go woke. They go broke, and it may take a while, but it's one of those things that I think Americans are really waking up to, this idea that all of this DEI and all of the censorship and all the other crazy stuff that's been going on, it's just insane. It doesn't make sense. It's just not practical. And Americans, by and large, are like you and I. They understand their family. They want to raise families. They want to worship their God. They want to, we just want to just live and be Americans. Like, we just not have to worry about this stuff, but we do today. And
Yeah.
that's why having companies like Patriot Mobile and others that are part of this new parallel or red economy are so essential, because it's giving a good Christian conservative alternative to the woke.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're leading the way in that red economy because you are dealing with the fundamental element of communication. If we don't have that, it all falls apart. What I'm just curious. I mean, you're in marketing. What is your assessment? I'll be blunt. My assessment is these CEOs for all, these guys are BlackRock, Larry Flint, $1 trillion, budgets and so forth. They're just cowards. In the end, these guys are cowards. They cower from the fear of having a woke mob hurt their business model. And now that they're seeing the rise of MAGA like never before, Trump winning the popular vote and all, they're just moving the other direction. They're trying to pretend they were never woke. What are you talking about? What do you, I mean, obviously these are not ideologues. They don't really believe this stuff. Why did they embrace wokeness in the first place?
My personal belief, and I think that certainly has something to do with the infiltration of the boards of these large corporations, right? I mean, you mentioned BlackRock. There's pressure now that it may not be the CEO himself or the leadership of the companies. When these boards get infiltrated and they're driving the direction of the ship, sometimes when you have these powers that be out there, the financial success of the company may not be of an issue at all. It's more about the ideology that they're trying to support. So it's hard to tell. But again, I go back to what I believe is that most Americans are like me and you, and they want to support companies that believe what they believe, that share the same values. And that's why I think you're seeing this massive shift and some of this whiplash with some of these companies that tried something and then realized, oh, wait a minute, that didn't work out the way I thought it would.
That's
Tractor
for sure.
Supply and some of these others that, whoa, wait a minute, what happened there? Right? It's this
Or
whiplash
Bud
effect.
Light.
Or Bud Light. Yeah. Yeah. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of that, I'm sure, here in the near future.
Yeah, and it is so exciting to see so much of the population dynamic. What do they call it? I think it's a dynamic called churn, where you're just seeing this dynamism in society of innovation and people moving around and investing and so forth. It's amazing to see how they're all coming to the red states. The blue states, well, unfortunately seeing it for California, but I mean, the blue states are just literally dying. And
Yeah.
it just seems like red America is growing by leaps and bounds. I read the other day, it's the big three are Texas, of course. I always make fun of my fellow Texans because they always show off around me because I live 20 minutes from Biden's basement in Delaware. I'm like, stop showing off, guys. Leave me alone. But it's Texas, it's Tennessee, and it's Florida. And they're kind of that trinity of states is we're sort of leading the way of this emerging red economy that, gosh, can you imagine what it's going to do? What's going to happen with it in a Trump nation where we finally don't have to spend all so much money and time and attention building these administrative and legal walls to protect us from the insanity of a blue DC. It's pretty impressive stuff.
It is. And I happen to live in Texas. So, we're here.
No, I know you do. You all, you guys, every time I have you guys with Patriot Mobile on, you're always showing off. All right, go on.
But it's interesting, Dr. Steve, because look, in the 2020 cycle, everybody just assumed that Texas was solid red. And look, we had been seeing this mass shift of blue state, transition into Texas for years. And there was a big concern, particularly here in Tarrant County where we live. Tarrant County is the largest red county left in the entire nation. It's bigger than 15 states. That's where we live. If we lose Tarrant County, we likely lose Texas. And if we lose Texas, you know what that means with all those electoral votes. So it's over. So what was so refreshing was to see in this 24 cycle a very nice rebound in Tarrant County and in the whole state of Texas as a whole, particularly in some of the border counties down around that are traditionally blue. We're seeing those even come around with a Hispanic vote and what have you. It's been really refreshing to see. And I think you're seeing that across the nation, really. I mean, look what happened to the blue wall. on election night. You're seeing that happen, and again, I take it all back to common sense. I think the left took too many things for granted and went too far with their silly policy, and people woke up. I mean, that's really what it boils down to.
And what is it? Awakened versus woke. I guess that's one way
Yeah,
of looking at it, right?
that's right.
In your view, how did so many of us get sort of lured into using these corporations for our daily goods, as it were, that did eventually go so woke? Was it just complacence? How did we end up? Why didn't we take more advantage of parallel economy structures over the last few years?
I think Dr. Steve, what it came down to was this didn't happen overnight, right? I mean, the left has been working on a very strategic agenda for wokeism, if you will, for decades. It didn't happen overnight. I think I'll use myself as an example. Up until about 4 or 5 years ago, I was heads down, running my own company, raising my family, raising my children, going to church, being active in my community, but I wasn't really involved in what was going on in
Right,
local politics. I'll take local
right.
politics. We live in a very conservative school district here in Texas. However, a very let's just say a very leftist agenda got a hold of our school board,
Yes.
and we nearly lost our school board. They almost passed a DEI bill, or whatever policy, if you will, that would have just crushed our school district, would have crushed our community. Well, we rallied around that,
Yeah.
and since then our school board is 100% conservative, and now
Yeah.
we have totally flipped it back. I think that's what you're seeing, but it took years for them to infiltrate our school boards, and it was very subtle. It was only when this whole DEI thing came along and it started blowing up, that people started waking up and saying, "Wait a minute, this is our children you're messing with here."
Yeah.
I mean, let's think about what we're doing here. And then the mama bear effect, took hold, and
Yeah.
next thing you know, we flipped the school board, and away we go. I think that's happening across America right now. People are being forced to get into local politics as
Yeah.
well as national politics, when before they just didn't care. I mean, it was like, why would they care? Now they're understanding it's their children and their children's children, the next generation that's going to be affected by these crazy policies. I have to get involved. It's essential.
Yeah.
And
Was
I
that
think that's what's happening.
was that the South Lake School Board?
Yeah. Yep, it
Yeah,
was.
I
Yep.
I think you guys started it. I really do. I'm trying to remember the chronology of the mama bear phenomenon. I mean, it certainly broke out in Loudoun County in Virginia. That got a lot of national play just because it's a blue area, and the parents were so upset. But I think South Lake was where the spark started, to be honest with you. I think that's where you guys just rose up and you took on that school board. I mean, you crushed it, man. You guys were amazing. I think that was in 2021 or so.
Yes.
20 Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And essentially, so we created the blueprint for what you saw in Loudoun County and others. And in fact, our chief communications officer, Lee Wamsgans, she also is the executive
Oh,
director of our
right.
PAC, Patriot
Yes.
Mobile Action.
Yeah.
She was instrumental in this movement, as was our founder and CEO, Glenn Story, and myself and other families. We came together very quickly and squashed what was called CCAP. It was the DEI thing that they were trying to pass in the school district, and quickly turned it around. And then we did the same thing in 3 other school districts here in Tarrant County that were facing the same issues. When the other school districts across the country started seeing what was going on, they reached out to Lee and her team, and we essentially helped them create a blueprint or a plan on how to combat these things. And it's just been incredible since.
So Scott, so what can people do? How can we become less reliant on these once woke companies? We certainly don't trust them. We do want to support companies that support our values, that offer amazing innovation and quality of service. Just big picture, what can people do?
Well, I think the really big picture, Dr. Steve, is we all have to make a conscious decision on how far are we really willing to go with this, right? I mean, I like to frame it up like this: there has to come a point where you're willing to prioritize comfort and convenience or over convenience, right? Or
Right.
and you've got to say, look, my values mean more than being able to walk across the street and grab a cup of coffee.
Right.
Am I going to drive down the street, right?
Right.
Or am I going to take the time that it might take to switch my bank, even though I know that everything's wired to my bank, but I'm gonna go with somebody that supports my values.
Right.
Same thing with Patriot Mobile. People often have a misconception that switching your cell phone service is hard. And I will tell you, 10 years ago, or even a few years ago, it might have been a lot more difficult. The last time you walked into a retail cell phone store, you probably walked out 3 hours later and wanted to slam your head in the car door because it was that painful. We're making it easy, right? We're trying to overcome some of those inconvenient things those stigma that people have with switching their cell phones. We make it easy through eSIM and other technology. We can email you a QR code,
Right.
and within minutes, you can use the camera on your phone, shoot the QR code, it loads the SIM in automatically, and you're active on our service. I don't have to physically ship you a SIM card, and then 3 days later you get it in the mail and you're fumbling around trying to figure out how to change it. We're trying to make it easy for our customers to switch to Patriot Mobile.
I love it. And you guys, I mean, talk about with your work with against DEI and these woke school boards and so forth. But you're huge supporters of our first responders. You're pro-life. Can you just give us a little sense of just how Patriot Mobile is contributing to a far more flourishing conservative culture?
Absolutely, Dr. Steve. And look, I mean, we realize that when it comes to who you choose to be your cell phone service provider, you have a lot of choices. But here's the truth: there's only one that stands in the gap for every American that believes that freedom is worth fighting for. There's one. There's only one that boldly proclaims that Jesus Christ is Lord, and we put God at the helm of our business, and that's what we do. Now, look, I mean, there's a lot of choices you have to make. And the biggest thing I try to tell people is, look, we use the same towers. We have 100% US based customer support. We sell all the greatest, latest devices. There's really no reason I can think of why you shouldn't come to Patriot Mobile. I can think of many reasons why you should. And it's because we support freedom. First Amendment, Second Amendment, sanctity of life. We support our military and first responder heroes. That's what we do. It's in our DNA. That's why we're here. We're a mission-driven company. I have no interest in selling anyone a cell phone or cell phone service. What I do have interest in selling people is what you can do with your cell phone, and that is defend freedom with every call and text you make with Patriot Mobile.
I love it. Defend freedom with every call, text you make with Patriot Mobile. It's so, I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, it's putting freedom literally into your DNA. The actions you do each and every day. It's interesting. I was mentioning, I'm in the Delaware area, but we are speaking of the blue wall. So, I'm 10 minutes away from the Pennsylvania border. And one of the coolest things, is seeing the Amish, because they really do take that kind of community culture in terms of their consumption choices very seriously. They will drive that buggy, and they're doing buggies, for heaven's sakes, for an extra few miles, just so that they can support a fellow Amishman in their business. It just seems that it really is. When I see that kind of commitment, I mean, what we're doing here to build this patriot economy, this red economy, I mean, it's nothing. And just like you said, it's literally nothing. It's just clicking on the link below, scanning the QR code, and you're good to go. Within an hour, you'll be good to go, supporting all these amazing causes with every call you make, with every text you make. I mean, it's just so wonderful, just the opportunities we have to support conservative culture through our consumer choices.
Amen. And you mentioned the Amish, and the one thing that I love about the Amish is they don't compromise on their values. They don't compromise, and that inspires me as a conservative Christian to not compromise on my values. I mean, I try to live and be the hands of Jesus. I'm not perfect. There was only one that was. And so I just try to do my best. And that's what the culture that we try to build here at Patriot Mobile. And I think that's how we win, as a country, is we get back to not compromising on our values and beliefs and drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we win.
And that's how we win. Again, beautifully said. And we are entering into the golden age, a new American golden age. And what better service to avail yourself of than Patriot Mobile? Click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on the screen. And they've got a wonderful deal for you guys. You can get a free month of Patriot Mobile's awesome cellular services when you sign up today. So just click on that link below, scan that QR code, and give them a try. You're going to absolutely love them. Scott, you're the best. Thank you so much for being with us, my friend.
Thank you, Dr. Steve. God bless you guys.
God bless you, man.